Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop. More than a week ago, the developers presented a large balance patch for Hearthstone modes. A lot of key cards have received nerfs while weaker tools have had their stats buffed. It's time to take stock and determine the best decks to achieve legendary rank and also discover new trends after the patch.
We studied the largest analytical resources to collect the maximum amount of representative data, and create a list of the best builds for the standard format. This allowed us to find unexpected meta breakers.
This time we ranked the deck not according to win rate, but according to benefit. To do this, we will use our experimental efficiency factor algorithm. We first presented our approach in one of our previous videos about budget decks. This time we made some changes as we analyzed statistics exclusively from high ranks. Our formula consists of two factors that equally influence the result: the cost of the deck and the win rate. To get a positive value, the deck must have a win rate of 50% to 60% and the total cost of collectible epic and legendary cards should not exceed 10,000 dust. Here are 3 examples. If a deck consists only of common and rare cards and has a win rate of 60%, then its efficiency factor will be 100%. Duplicate protection allows players to get cards of low rarity quickly and for free. Here's the second scenario. If the cost of crafting high rarity collectible cards is 10,000 dust and the deck has a 50% win rate, then its efficiency factor will be 0%. And finally, in cases of negative win rate and too high cost of crafting, the efficiency factor will have a negative value.
Let's start with the worst deck in terms of cost to performance ratio. At the bottom of our list is again splendiferous Whizbang. We're excited to keep an eye on this card as it's potentially the best budget option for standard players. In a recent patch, the developers strengthened the decks for Demon Hunter, Warlock, and Mage. To date, this has had a huge impact on increasing the overall win rate for the strategy, although the effectiveness of the decks is still extremely uneven. At Diamond rank, efficiency increased from 30 to 40%. These data are based on more than 40,000 games, which indicates enormous popularity. The developers should put in a little more effort to make the card competitive. The efficiency factor for this strategy is negative. This means this is an extremely bad option for moving up the ladder, even despite the record low cost.
In 11th place is Rogue. The class lost its core strategy after the Zilliax nerf, which knocked the ground out from under the class's feet. The best competitive strategy is drilling, but its effectiveness is slightly above 50%. Overall, this is a good deck, but it loses to the 2 most popular classes, Druid and Warrior. Bran Warrior is the worst matchup for the deck, and this is a global problem since it is incredibly popular. The deck can hardly be called budget, since it consists of 4 legendary cards and 2 epics. Relatively low efficiency and high cost did not allow the archetype to receive enough efficiency factor points.
Next in line is Shaman. The nerf was merciless for the class and practically killed the nature and tentacle archetypes. The Highlander strategy is incredibly expensive and requires you to have 6 specific legendary cards. This is potentially a very good deck that stands up well to all aggressive archetypes and most other strategies. However, only Bran Warrior does not allow to reveal the full power. Hagatha received a buff and thus increased her usefulness. A deadly synergy is the combination of Shutterblock and Zilliax Deluxe, allowing you to create a threat from a variety of mechs. The efficiency factor is only 22% due to the very high cost.
The Plague archetype remains the most effective and popular Death Knight strategy. The win rate for this build is 53% at Diamond rank and is the best option for the class. The disadvantage of the deck is the relatively high cost of which consists of 3 legendary and 4 epic cards, but for new or returning players this build can be almost free. While the archetype didn't receive a direct nerf, the rule changes for Highlander decks made the strategy significantly less effective. If before the changes Plague Death Knight was hunting for the Bran Warrior, now the Warrior effectively opposes the archetype. But besides this, the strategy does not stand up well against the 2 most popular classes, Hunter and Druid. Death Knight had very bad luck with the new cards. The class was unable to adapt the new tools. From a cost-effectiveness perspective, this strategy is not the most profitable.
Warlock has several meta strategies for competitive play. Snake's strategy returned to the pool of archetypes, but after the nerf, Wheel deck disappeared from high ranks. Pain Warlock remains competitive, but Sludge demonstrates the highest efficiency. This is an old build that was not affected by the new expansion. The deck doesn't do well against aggressive archetypes, but it outperforms control decks including Brand Warrior.
In 7th place is Zari Priest. The strategy received a huge blow after the nerf, which radically reduced its popularity. Now, in order to activate the Zari effect, you need to play 8 dragons instead of 5. It would seem that this should kill the strategy, but the opposite happened. The deck's win rate is 58%. This build stands up very well to the most popular archetype. It leaves virtually no chance for Mage and Druid and also demonstrates satisfactory effectiveness against the warrior. The chances of winning against Zooh Hunter are almost 50%. The main enemy is the Shopper Demon Hunter, but due to its low popularity it has minimal impact on the overall effectiveness of the archetype. Thus, Zari Priest is an ideal meta breaker. I tested this deck in my own experience and it works almost perfectly. The extra turn is definitely a broken mechanic. The big advantage is low popularity, which will significantly reduce the likelihood of mirror matches. The only significant drawback is the extremely high cost, which had a negative impact on the efficiency factor.
After the nerf, Odin Warrior almost disappeared from high ranks while Bran Warrior started causing significantly more problems than before. This is the most popular archetype and one of the most effective. The deck has several win conditions. First, you have the ability to remove your opponent's board, hand, and deck in the late game or end the match by summoning 4 Ziliacs and immediately attack. Thirdly, you can generate a board of huge creatures quite easily thanks to mining synergy. Despite the nerfs, you also have some very powerful AoE spells and Reno, which are ideal control tools. The strategy received the biggest blow from nerfs, but despite this, it has absorbed all the most powerful tools that allow it to lead and not leave any chances for opponents in control matchups. The most dangerous opponent is Zooh Hunter. This is the only limiting factor that prevents the deck from completely getting out of control. Another drawback is the incredibly high cost, which reduced the deck's efficiency factor by 50 points.
The Mage is in a great crisis. The most popular class in the game cannot form an effective strategy even after nerfing the most popular archetypes and buffing several tools for the class. Unexpectedly for us, the budget build of the elemental strategy turned out to be the best at high ranks. The deck's win rate is not impressive, but it indicates the competitiveness of the strategy. Although due to the relatively low popularity, this result cannot be considered sufficiently representative.
The most important advantage of the deck is its low cost. You don't need any legendary or epic cards, which allows players to get the deck practically for free. The deck is good against less popular strategies, but not good against the most popular archetypes. Overall, this is a great budget deck that will allow you to increase variety in the game. The efficiency factor consists of a maximum of 50 points for the minimum cost, plus 5 points for the win rate. In 4th place is Shopper Demon Hunter. The archetype remained effective after the Umpire's Grasp nerf. This is the only meta strategy for the class and it's sad because players have no alternatives. I hate this strategy, but I have to admit that it offers a new playstyle. In my opinion, this archetype is good for increasing diversity within the class, but it cannot be the only option for competitive play. An important advantage of the deck is its low cost, since it managed to adapt several high-cost cards from the core set. If you have Ziliacs in your collection, then the deck will be almost free for you. Low cost and good win rate were the main reasons for obtaining a high efficiency factor. The deck's toughest matchups are the aggressive Paladin and Hunter archetypes, but the deck also struggles against Brand Warrior.
Spell Damage Druid looks like a potential meta breaker. The deck is a hybrid of 3 strategies: Hero Power, Dragons and Spell Damage. The deck has successfully adapted several improved tools. This extremely popular build can effectively compete with almost all strategies, with the exception of aggressive Paladins. Against most popular archetypes, your chance of winning will be approximately 50%. Another advantage is the relatively low cost, since you only need 2 legendary cards, one of which is Ziliacs. Taking into account all the advantages and disadvantages, we get an efficiency factor of 59%.
In 2nd place was the budget version of Aggro Paladin, not because of its low cost but because of its high efficiency at the diamond rank. If you have Ziliacs in your collection, then to create this version of the deck you will only need 4 epic cards. The deck's performance is impressive. This build does not have extremely bad matchups, but Bran Warrior and Shopper Demon Hunter can create difficulties. An important advantage is low popularity since players prefer to use the excavate strategy. Low cost and high win rate are the reason for such a high efficiency factor.
No surprises in first place. Zooh Hunter remains the most optimal deck for moving up the ladder in terms of efficiency and cost. The minor nerf to the location did nothing to overcome the lethality of the strategy. This is an almost perfect deck that has a significant advantage against all classes. The only difficulties can come from Aggro Paladins. Another disadvantage may be mirror matches. Hearthstone has finally turned into Ziliak's Stone. The legendary card also occupies a key place in this strategy.
Let's move on to the conclusions. As a rule, balance patches take longer to show all the changes, but we are already seeing a few trends. Balance changes have slightly reduced power creep in Standard, but at the same time increased the contrast of advantages among strategies. Diversity within classes has decreased significantly. Virus Rogue, Nature Shaman, Tentacle Shaman and Odin Warrior have almost completely disappeared, and the presence of niche decks has also been radically reduced. With a record concentration of cards in the Standard format, we are seeing the survival of ultra-efficient builds that have increased power levels and counter each other. Once again, competitive play is very reminiscent of rock paper scissors. Most meta strategies have clear advantages against some archetypes and weaknesses against other strategies. In these circumstances, your victory depends more on your opponent's deck and less on skills.
A very positive point is the presence of competitive strategies for all classes. Also, the general influence of the new cards improves the current state of affairs. The Whizbang expansion has created a large number of new archetypes that are still fun to experiment with.
Dear viewers, what do you think about the current situation in the metagame? Which archetype is your favorite and which opponent strategy do you hate the most?
Share your thoughts in the comments and join the polls in the community tab.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.